When people hear about indie animated shows nowadays, they often think about Hell of a Boss, The Amazing Digital Circus, or, if they are a person of taste, Metal Family. However, back in the day, indie animation used to have a much different connotation. In the early days of YouTube, indie animations were often made by only one person to maybe a few. When it comes to quality, the shows aren't as polished as what we see nowadays, but the shows were definitely full of soul. One example that everyone knows is SSS Warrior Cats. However, not all indie animated shows from that era had the same amount of staying power. One show that ended up being forgotten to the sands of time is Feral Pride. Feral Pride ran for a remarkable 20 episodes, despite being animated by only one person as far as I can tell. It is the epitome of the raw, unfiltered era of YouTube animation that occurred in the early to mid-2010s. Feral Pride is a series about a group of wolves attempting to survive in a post-apocalyptic wild. One of those wolves, Hiwata, is an albino wolf with mysterious powers. As she learns more about her powers, her simple life becomes complicated, placing her in conflict with the wolves in her pack. Her mate, Hinto, stays by her side at every step, but not everything is as it appears, and he may end up being the biggest threat of all. Feral Pride is a fascinating series which brings to mind old classics like Feladay and Play Dogs and in its inability to shy away from any gore, and also Watership Down in its realistic portrayal of the lives of wolves in the wild. Tune on in to hear the bloody story of Feral Pride. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, please think about subscribing. I regularly post all kinds of animal fiction content, so you'll never be bored. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I wouldn't have gone here without y'all. And also, I usually do not give a detailed trigger warning before my videos. I just say that the series has animal death or blood and that's it. But this series gets pretty intense. Here are some triggers that are relevant either for this review or in the series itself if you want to go and watch it. In this review, there will be a lot of blood, possible images of body horror, detailed wounds, sexism, and homophobia. Then, in the show itself, there's harm of newborn puppies, implied actual assault, implied dead body loving, detailed depictions of dead bodies, vomit, and a lot more. The show has gore warnings on some episodes, but every episode contains some level of gore. But the episodes with those warnings get especially disgusting. So safe to say, if you are under the age of 13, or even 16, or if you are easily frightened by blood or harmed by the triggers I just said, this might not be the best video for you. I'll catch you in another one. For those who are able to stomach those themes, let's move along to the plot. There are spoilers ahead, but the series is pretty long, so I left out a lot of minor plot beats. If you want to go back and watch the series, which I heavily encourage, there will still be a lot for you to discover there. Let's start off with episode 1. We are introduced to two groups of wolves. First, there are the wild wolves. Dasker, the gray and brown one, is their alpha. Trot, the red one, is their beta. Caleb, the gruff one, is in the middle of the pack. Editor Rogan here, it turns out that my autocorrect changed Kilo's name to Caleb for the entire script. And despite re-recording the script twice, I somehow managed to not get it. Now, I do not feel like re-recording the script a third time, so just know any single time I say Caleb, I really mean Kilo. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to re-record this 30-minute long script a third time. Thank you. Finally, there's Hinto, the black wolf with blue eyes, who is the Omega. Yes, Alpha Theory is outdated when it comes to wolves, but this was published just over a decade ago, and also Alpha Theory sounds cool, so please do not barrage me with comments on that. Then there are the wolves who were raised by humans, Ashoda, Anami, Eris, and Hiwata. Ashoda is the mother to all of them. Anami is the interesting one. She's a bit more of a female wolf than the rest of them, and that makes her very interesting. Hiwata is an albino wolf, and Eris is the young pup. The two wolf packs meet, and Hinto stands up to Dasker to protect Hiwata. It seems like the two are becoming close friends already. Hinto and Dasker fight, and Dasker wins the fight. Dasker makes Ashoda his new beta because of her experience, and makes Hiwata the new Omega. Hiwata forces Hinto to stare up at the sun, and then uses some herbs to heal his wounds instantly. Already, some strange magical stuff is happening, and it's only episode 1. During the opening to episode 2, we learn about Hiwata's origins. Ashoda abandoned her and humans hand raised her. During the clip, we can see an eyedropper be used on Hiwata's eyes. It is unsure exactly what the eyedropper contained, but albino wolves often have blindness, so it may be medication to help with her eyes. Meanwhile, in present times, Hiwata is being beaten up because she is the Omega. Hinto and Hiwata decide to try and find prey in order to prove their worth to the pack, as the pack is starving. They find buffalo and decide to go grab the rest of the pack so they can hunt. But then Hiwata is attacked by a mountain lion. But then the mountain lion is attacked by an actual lion. Hiwata knows this lioness. Her name is Cespria, and she thanks Hiwata for releasing her. From what? We've yet to know. Hiwata can talk to lions, and she can also talk to all sorts of animals. In episode 1, she talked to a squirrel, who seemed confused that a wolf was talking to her, so this isn't a normal wolf thing, and Hiwata definitely has some special powers. The pack makes their way to the buffalo. Hiwata rides a buffalo into the side of an abandoned building. The buffalo dies, and they eat it. The pack soon grows excited about having pups, but Hiwata is worried, both about having pups and her mother, who has been limping more. Caleb decides to seek out a female coyote because Dasker won't allow him to have a mate. Trot follows him, and they find a dead coyote, dead because a lion killed it. The lion paralyzed Caleb, who called out for help. Meanwhile, back at the pack, Dasker wants Hiwata to be his mate because she seems unafraid of him with her constant staring. Ashoda tries to tell him something, but they hear Caleb's pained howl and seeks him out. Trot tries to save Caleb because Caleb is a part of his pack and a part of his family. Turns out, Caleb didn't initially want Trot in the pack because he thought Trot was a female because of his strange smell, and he then didn't like him because of that strange smell. But after he was accepted into the pack, Caleb apologized to him and the two became friends. The pack found Trot and Caleb, but it was far too late for Caleb. There was no way for Hiwata to heal him, and Dasker, his own brother, decided to abandon him to the buzzards. The entire pack thought that the lion who attacked Caleb was a mountain lion, but Hiwata knew that was an actual lion. She decided to leave and talk to Cespria, but Dasker got Hinto to follow her. Cespria asks Hiwata to heal Monabi, a lion who has lost the ability to retract her claws. Hiwata agrees to heal Monabi if she stops attacking wolves. Meanwhile, Hinto gets distracted by a fox, who happens to be albino, just like Hiwata, and the fox also has strange abilities. The fox kidnaps him. Hiwata hears his yelp and goes to search after him, but she cannot find him. And as it turns out, the albino fox is working with an albino lynx. They talk vaguely about Hinto's true nature, which is just another mystery added to this. First, there's Trot's strange scent, then Hiwata's strange abilities. Now Hinto might have something going on with him too? What is this, a pack of main characters? Hiwata is intimidated by the albino fox and lynx. The lynx tells her that her training will begin soon, and she is then knocked out and wakes up to see Hinto. She reveals the backstory behind how the wolves got out in the wild. She used to be in some sort of isolation unit alongside Cespria, and her keeper always left the door slightly ajar. The keeper started showing up less and less often, until they finally disappeared. Hiwata pushed out the cage door and healed Cespria. She then freed her, and they set out to find their respective groups and free them. Cespria and Monabi are still waiting on Hiwata, but Hiwata doesn't show. They decide to leave. Now look real close. You might think that this is an animation error, that they forgot to shade Cespria as being wet despite the rain, but Monabi points it out in show, and a second later, she gets rained on. Even more weirdness. Back to the pack, Caleb is hanging out with Trot, not that he's a choice, being paralyzed and all. Caleb reveals that he has a ton of offspring. Caleb says that Trot will remain Dasker's pretty little boy scout until he dies, giving me a theory on why his scent was weak. Caleb asks to be alone, so Trot leaves him. He passes away. Hiwata and Hinto reunite with the pack as they stumble upon Caleb's corpse. Coyotes have been eating away at his corpse, so they drive the coyotes away, and then Dasker and Hinto go after the coyotes. Hiwata sneaks into the lion's camp and heals Monabi's leg, but then the male lion wakes up and decides to torture her for information. I love the lion's voice acting. Just listen, this guy knew the assignment.
What a curious creature. Is it a dog of some kind?
Hiwata sent Cespria to keep Dasker and Hinto from killing themselves, either by fighting the lions or coyotes, but Cespria accidentally brought them back to the lion's camp. Way to go, Cespria. Hiwata saves your life, plus your entire pride's life by extension, heals your cousin's leg, and this is what you do in return? The lion monologues and forces Hiwata to translate. His name is Lofa, and he wants the wolves to leave, but Dasker doesn't want to leave. He wants revenge for Caleb. Hinto escapes to find the rest of the pack for reinforcements, whilst Dasker fights Lofa. Luckily, Anime comes to lend a helping paw to him. Hiwata is knocked out, but Cespria revives her. Hiwata tries to knock some sense into the lions and wolves. Lofa attacks Hiwata, but the white lynx steps in. Lofa attacks the white lynx then, but she instantly heals herself and uses thorns to injure Lofa. The lynx disappears and the pack runs away. Anime catches a rat for Dasker, but Dasker is still obsessed with Hiwata. Anime goes on a rant about how she deserves his attention better. And this is the start of her villain arc, I swear, because she tells the pack something that has been unsaid to this point. Hiwata is blind. Dasker instantly loses interest in Hiwata and decides to be mates with Anime. Hiwata isn't sad that she won't be alpha female, but she feels embarrassed that the pack had to figure out that she was blind in that way. Hinto comforts her and says that he would pick her as his alpha female. He says that he wants to run away together, but Hiwata doesn't want to leave because she just only met her mom after being raised by humans. Hinto says that maybe they won't have to leave if he trains to become the alpha of the pack. We get a flashback to a much younger Dasker. He's living in a pack led by Shion and Reijir, and they've just had pups. Dasker goes to meet those pups, and one of those pups is Hinto. Dasker promises to protect the pups. However, the only pup that we can recognize is Hinto, so something bad is obviously going to happen to them. On a hunt, Shion goes missing. She returns back to the pack with a tracking collar, and a few days later, a hunter comes and shoots all the wolves. Dasker and a few other wolves are able to escape, but the pack was decimated. Back in modern day, Anime is getting pissed off at Ashoda, her own mother, for being so old and delaying the search for her territory. They find a house and there are no humans there, but there are some dogs living there. There's Bailey, an anxious border collie, Saurus, a stern Australian shepherd, Nova, a female dog, and Saurus is mates with Nova, Marco the German shepherd. Finally, there's another female dog who isn't even listed on the wiki anywhere. If she's so unimportant that the wiki decided not to name her, I'm not gonna name her either. The dogs are afraid of the wolves, but Nova has the insane idea to kidnap a female wolf and steal her pups in order to make their pack stronger. The others decide to go along with it for some reason, and the dogs decide to keep quiet until it is time to fulfill their plan. Meanwhile, back with the wolves, Anime reveals that she is pregnant. She finds a human hand near the house and then goes inside. She finds and then attacks the dogs, but the dogs manage to trap Anime in a hole in the floor. Hiwata walks into the forest to see a mountain lion strangled to death by a vine. She finds the white lynx a short distance away. She asks the white lynx to train her. The white lynx says her name is Vishumi and that there is no learning of her powers to be done, only awakening. Vishumi tries to teach Hiwata how to fleet run, aka run really fast, but then she gives up and asks her to spar. While sparring, Hiwata figures out how to use vines to swing like Spider-Man, and realizes that she can use the vines to save Anime from the hole. Dasker finally arrives at a human's den. The dogs appear confident, but soon all of them were forced out of the den besides for Bailey. Hiwata uses her vines to get Anime out of the hole, and Anime says this line in order to say,
"I didn't need your help. This was a test of your loyalty to me. The fact that I can be so cruel to you, and yet you still risk your life for me, makes me feel oh so very special. Continue to remain pathetic and meek. Every pack needs an Omega after all."
Bailey leads Hiwata to the corpse of the human. It turns out Nova had somehow managed to kill him. That's one cold-hearted female dog. But it turns out she's the reason why she did everything. She was incredibly mad that the human took away her ability to have pups, and that's also another reason why she decided to kidnap Anime. Meanwhile, the wolves corner the dogs. Nova tells Anime to kill her, as she won't have any chance of having pups, but Anime says that she won't because thinking about her jealousy makes her feel amazing. She then instructed the dogs to leave before she changed her mind, and the dogs decided to go to the city. Bailey reunites with other dogs, but decides not to go with them and joins the wolf pack. Nova apologizes to her pack for getting them into this mess, and they accept. Nova decides that instead of kidnapping someone so that she can get their pups, she will instead adopt pups who are without a mother. I feel like episode 7 has to be the best written episode by far. It tells a full story with a beginning, middle, and end. The dogs are pretty likable, and you understand their motivations. You even begin to like Nova by the end, even though it appears impossible to do at first. The dog plot was wrapped up in an incredibly satisfying way too, and though episode 7 is the longest episode by far, it didn't drag at all. Moving on to episode 8, which begins with a strange dream that Hiwata is having, where she's being hunted down by other wolves. She goes to find Vishumi to talk about her dream, but instead of comforting her, Vishumi lectures her about how her territory is a sanctuary for all animals and how Hiwata should stop hunting and instead only hunt those who are ready and willing to die. Vishumi says that she will do anything to protect her land, something that explains the dead mountain lion corpse from last episode. Vishumi introduces Hiwata to her familiar, or Arma, a hawk named Belhan. Armas tend to have elemental abilities. Belhan's is fire. Now Cespria has a water ability. We can all pretty much guess from this that Cespria is Hiwata's Arma. Then Vishumi shows her Melilda, a white deer who is a lucid or magic user just like Hiwata. Vishumi instructs Hiwata to look after her, as herbivores are not usually lucids and she's curious about her. Then she puts Hiwata on guard duty. Hiwata stumbles upon Cespria. Cespria says that she's pregnant, but she's scared of her king, so she left her pride. Hiwata says that she might be pregnant as well. Hinto sees Hiwata talking to Cespria and gets annoyed that she is more willing to talk to animals from another species than spend time with him. He then kills a chipmunk which Hiwata was watching over. Hiwata and Cespria separated. Hiwata finds the chipmunk's corpse, and Vishumi gets mad at her for not protecting the chipmunk. Hiwata returns to the pack and was suspicious that Hinto killed the chipmunk. Vishumi's words are getting to Hiwata, and she decides she doesn't want to eat any animals anymore. She takes a group of sheep that her pack captured to Vishumi and asks for protection. Vishumi says that her empathy is misguided, as without the sheep, her own pack would starve, but Vishumi still decides to take them in. Hiwata and Hinto have a tense conversation where Hiwata says that she might not be pregnant. Hinto says that would be amazing as it would give him more time to feed Dasker, and Hiwata asks why in the world is taking him so long. Without the sheep, the pack decides to go hunting so they won't starve. It is pointed out to Anime that she's having pups soon, so she should make a den, but Anime gets pissed at being told what to do and goes hunting anyways. While hunting, Hinto finds Cespria, and fearing for his pack's safety, he attacks her. Cespria feels as though his attacks are stronger than the normal wolf's. Then, subconsciously, she uses water to push him back so that she can escape. The pack finds and hunts Melilda. Hiwata throws the pack off the deer's tracks by giving them bad directions to buy herself time to save the white deer. Vishumi imprisons Hinto, but he breaks free. He moves so fast and so strong that he takes out a tree, confirming that, like Hiwata, he isn't an ordinary wolf. Vishumi calls him the progeny of the corrupted, and warned that she wasn't able to kill him when she had the chance. She decided to leave Hinto's fate up to Hiwata. Dasker and Anime are still hot on Melilda's trail, despite Anime being in labor. Anime had a pup and didn't realize it, she stepped on it, severely injuring it, and Dasker finally forced Anime to stop. Hiwata heals the injured pup, and Anime has the rest of the pups without as much drama as the first one. Ash takes Anime to create a den for the pups, as they are too young to be with the entire pack. Melilda finally gets some voice lines, and it turns out that she does have a personality, and she really hates Hiwata.
Okay, I'm going to have to go back to my pack for a while. While I'm gone, stay in this area. Don't move. I'll try to mask your scent so no one can find you.
The lynx already set traps everywhere. You may want to watch your step. Or don't. It doesn't matter to me.
Despite having newborn pups, Anime still wants to kill the white deer, as it reminds her of Hiwata. So Anime abandons her newly born pups to hunt Melilda, and Hiwata goes to protect her. Melilda opens up and tells her a bit about her backstory. That she was chased by wolves and possibly used to be more powerful. She doesn't remember anything past that. She then pushes Hiwata off a cliff to get rid of her. Anime catches up to Melilda and kills her. The pack eats her, and Hiwata is forced to eat her corpse with them. I guess we'll never learn about Melilda's backstory now. Hiwata is afraid to go back to Vishumi because of her failure to protect Melilda. However, when she meets with Vishumi again, the lynx appears not to know about the deer's death, or even know who Melilda is at all, and only wanted to go hunting with Hiwata and her Arma. And she discerns that Hiwata's Arma is Cespria. Vishumi shows Hiwata the corpse of a corrupted, the enemy. It is fur sharp enough to scratch her paw pad. The corrupted are formed from a marriage between two carnivores who kill for fun, not for food. The corrupted have blue eyes and dark gray fur. Does that resemble anyone who you know? From birth, the corrupted are evil, and they kill their own siblings so that they can be stronger. Most corrupteds are muted and don't have active powers. However, if they kill enough without any remorse, they become a full corrupted and gain ice blue blood. Vishumi, her Arma, and Hiwata are attacked by a corrupted house cat. They then attacked back, and Hiwata is speared through by the cat's strong fur. Hiwata heals herself, but accidentally locks eyes with the corrupted, and the corrupted engages her in telepathy. Vishumi thinks that she's lost to the corrupted, and thinks about killing Hiwata, but is dissuaded from doing so by Belhan. The corrupted points out to Hiwata that her teacher does not seem to trust her with anything, including something about tree. Hiwata manages to snap out of her daze and kills the corrupted even though it was begging for its life. Vishumi decides to let Hiwata in on the tree thing because of her first kill. She has the seed of a tree called Ouroboros, which has no energy glow. The Ouroboros was a species of tree which provided food and the ability to freely communicate to all creatures who consumed it, herbivore and carnivore alike. When the Ouroboros was around, it was pretty much a Garden of Eden-like state and no creatures fought or killed. A guardian was chosen by the Ouroboros to protect all trees, but soon a corruption spawned. The corruption told carnivores that they should consume flesh, and the humans listened to it and burned every tree to the ground. The guardian gave up her immortality to create the lucid, and hid the rest of the Ouroboros trees so that they could not be destroyed. Then, Hinto stumbles across Vishumi training Hiwata and drives her away. Hiwata wonders whether Hinto is corrupted or not. Even though Hinto is not as evil as corrupteds are said to be, he is definitely starting to get there with how controlling he is towards Hiwata. He also has killed for fun and not to eat before, as he killed the chipmunk just because Hiwata was giving more attention to it. Also, Vishumi might be an unreliable narrator when it comes to corrupteds. As we saw her completely forget about Melilza earlier, she may be forgetting some information about corrupteds, or have been told a false story about how evil they really are. This episode, episode 13, has to be the prettiest episode in the series. Though the person behind the series experimented a lot with the section with the cat, and also the storytelling segment, it definitely paid off. Though the sections are different from what we've seen before in the series, it still fits in with the series' overall style and looks pretty amazing. Then a time skip occurs and it's time for the pups to get their names. The gray and brown wolf is called Alistair, the yellow one is called King, and the yellow female is called Sunny, but Anime tries to rename her to Anime Jr. The gray and black one, I don't actually recall whether or not it was given a name. Hiwata and Hinto watch over the pups, and Alistair reveals that Anime has been hurting them. Anime finds out that Hiwata is pregnant and attacks her. Hiwata and Hinto run away, but Dasker manages to pin down Hiwata, who has to use her vines to fight him off. She uses her powers to get away. Anime is attacked by a raccoon while chasing them, distracting her from following their scents. The raccoon is foaming at the mouth, and if you've seen my video on Feral, well, you know how this ends. A few days pass with no sign of Hiwata, Hinto, and Anime. Hinto and Hiwata have decided to permanently leave the pack, but they are still worried about Anime. Eric, who was a pup at the beginning of the series, is now a fully grown wolf. He finds a pregnant Dasha named Doxy, who is from the city. I guess the city is a whole lot closer to the forest than I thought it was, because Doxy says that she can make back to the city before nightfall, and she has the shortest legs I've ever seen. The two talk, and then Doxy leaves. Doxy is never seen again in the series. She literally existed for this episode, and that's it. Vishumi notices that Hiwata is malnourished from her vegan lifestyle and hunts for her. Vishumi tells Hiwata that she will kill 1,000 more birds for her, and Hiwata is horrified, saying that all lives are equal and that she refused to take another. Vishumi claims that Hiwata is going through a phase that she needed to be guiding through and reveals her backstory. Her mentor, a mountain lion named Valama, was a bit more of a pacifist than her, who encouraged her to let a defeated corrupted go. The corrupted later returned with a swarm, and the corrupted killed her Arma. Hiwata called her a hypocrite who breaks her own rules, and Vishumi says that they are an exception to the rule as they are lucids. Hiwata runs away from Vishumi. Hiwata meets up with Cespria, and Hiwata says that Cespria might be her Arma. However, she says not to get too close as Arma are just cannon fodder for a lucid. Cespria leaves and Anime appears, moving erratically and behaving a bit strangely, but still, she keeps her hatred for Hiwata. Anime has been so blinded by hatred, and also rabies if you hadn't guessed what it is yet, that she has worn down her paw pads to the point of bleeding as she walks. Despite her injuries, Anime attacks Hiwata, and Hiwata is reluctant to fight back for some reason, but Cespria fights back for her. Hiwata finally admits that Cespria is her Arma. Cespria tries to use a sonic ability to take Anime out, but Anime powers through. Cespria is forced to fight back up against Anime, and she accidentally rips her jaw off her face. The depiction of the injury in the episode is so gory and realistic that it makes me question whether the artist has seen a dog or a wolf in real life with that condition. I never have, but it's so disgusting that I imagine that it will be exactly like how the artist drew it. Hiwata fortunately heals Anime of her injury, but the rabies still remains in her system. Hiwata leaves and she's getting close to giving birth, but she doesn't know where Hinto is. Hinto is on the second day of a hunt. He manages to kill a deer by activating his powers on accident and splitting it in half. Meanwhile, Eric is doing his best to keep the pups in check and hunt for the pack. Bailey rediscovers the sheep, which happen to be in Vishumi's land. Vishumi strings him up with a vine, but Eric rescues him. Eric asks Dasker if they can leave the territory, because the territory at this point is not safe, they aren't catching any prey there, and it's pretty clear that Anime is a lost cause. But just then, Anime returns to the pack. Hinto also finally returns back to Hiwata. She is so weak that she can't eat, and Hinto rants about how he sacrifices everything for her, but she doesn't even eat what he hunts. Hinto attacks Hiwata, but instantly regrets it. Hiwata flees. Anime attacks Dasker. Trot tries to convince Dasker to fight back, but he doesn't want to. Trot feels sad, but Dasker decides to send Bailey over to comfort him for some reason. Trot reveals that he is half dog and was neutered, which explains his weird scent. Because he was neutered, his family abandoned him in the woods. Dasker's pack then took him in. Even though his scent has been explained, I still believe in my previous theory. I'm gonna play a little clip for you, and you can't deny that in the clip, it sounds like Dasker and Trot are boyfriends, but Dasker is dealing with Compet and wants out of the relationship.
I don't think it could get any better than this. A beautiful landscape, plentiful food. Experiencing it with you only makes it better.
You do know it can't be like this forever.
Why not? You're happy, right? What would be there to change? Hinto, Kilo, me, is that not enough for you?
It's not always about personal happiness. It's about a legacy and a purpose. This momentary happiness is fleeting. It should be my priority to sire those that can enjoy my happiness as well.
Hiwata is attacked by a Swarm of Corrupted. Thankfully, Balhan finds her and sends Vishumi over telepathically. Cespria carries Hiwata away. Vishumi arrives and she creates a barrier between Balhan and the Corrupted and the rest of the forest. Balhan then explodes himself, killing the Corrupted and himself in the process. Trot finds Dasker wandering in the forest and accuses him of abandoning his pack, and also of being afraid of what his family would think of, quote-unquote, seeing you with me. Trot volunteers to leave with Dasker and the pups. Dasker refuses to because he wants to protect Trot from Anime. Meanwhile, Anime's pups heard her call out for them. Some of them refused to go, but Alistair and Beryl went to go and visit her, and Sunny followed soon after. King and Chiwa decide to go and get Eric to try and rescue them. Sunny goes to catch up to Alistair and Beryl, but she discovers Alistair dead, killed by Anime, and Beryl with one ear chewed off by her. Anime kills Alistair, and in the nick of time, Eric saves Sunny. Eric decides to take the pack and move to the city, as he feels like it would be a bad idea to fight Anime for some reason. Meanwhile, Vishumi reveals that she had been taken to an Ouroboros tree in a cavern when she was younger. The cavern began to collapse, and her mentor became twisted by an Ouroboros seed that she consumed. Vishumi tried to dig her mentor out of the cave, but found something horrifying and fled instead. Because she had failed her mentor, Vishumi feels like a failure, so she heals Hiwata and tells her to leave and find a former apprentice of hers. Hiwata thanks her. Even if they've had their differences, she still respected the Order Lucid. Hiwata tells Cespria to leave and live her own life with her cubs, and then flees herself. Back at the pack, Dasker decides to take responsibility for enabling Anime and approached her, aiming to take her out once and for all, even at the cost of his own life. And that's where the story ended. Right on the biggest cliffhanger yet, with Dasker about to face off against his mate Anime, Hiwata running from grave danger, and may I remind you, she's still pregnant despite being treated like a punching bag for the past 6 episodes, and Hinto beginning to awaken his corrupted powers. There are still so many unanswered questions too. What was with the random pregnant Dachshund? What was with the white deer that Vishumi forgot about? What happened to Vishumi's mentor? What happened to the humans? And so much more. Unfortunately, it's been over 6 years and there's no sign of episode 22. It is unlikely the series will ever be completed or that we will ever know what would have happened. Now that I've summarized the plot, it's time for a review. First of all, I just have to say wow. 21 episodes of animation, with some episodes as long as 16 minutes long, is an amazing feat for one animator to do. I don't think I could ever be as dedicated as that to an animated series. The animation is pretty good, the fight scenes are never dull between the inventive choreography and the constantly evolving power system. The mix of realistic backgrounds with the flat-colored characters is not as jarring as it should be. That is thanks to the realistic style of the show and also the dedication to some sort of continuity between the different images of forests. I have no clue how it managed to work out, but it did. I feel like this show overall has a very cohesive style because of that. The character drama was A+ and always entertaining. The character who is the highlight of the show, though, obviously has to be Anime. Anime has so many iconic lines, she is such a strong character, and whenever she's on screen, you are sure that you will be entertained in some way. Now, onto the flaws. The changes in quality in the art style is downright confusing. In some episodes, you have great looking frames like this, contrasted with frames as bad as this. This can be explained by the artist making use of tracing. I use tracing in a completely neutral sense. I don't think that tracing is explicitly a bad thing to do, especially when you're not tracing off of other people's art, but instead real images of wolves, and you're creating very, very long episodes for an animated series. Some of the animation is also rotoscoped from real videos of wolves, which can make it look a bit jarring whenever there's a transition between still frames and rotoscoped animation. The art and animation quality definitely improves as the series goes on. It's just that the first few episodes are sort of rough around the edges. I feel like the biggest problem that I have with the series is the dialogue. It can often sound very stilted, and sometimes I'm left saying a wild wolf would never say that, or the character who is talking would never say that. The pacing of the episodes can sometimes be a bit off-putting as well. Each episode feels more like a chapter from a book, or a few chapters in the case of the dog episode, than an episode with its own conclusive inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, and renouncement. The episode that feels the most complete has to be the dogs one, as it tells a complete story and there was no jarring cliffhanger. Speaking of cliffhangers, there's nothing wrong with having them. They can be a great way to add intrigue to a story. But doing it so often removes the initial danger that a cliffhanger brings. Also, when you were releasing a series with a gap of several months between episodes, it can make your fans very mad at you if you look at the comment section. Though the series does have its flaws, it is way more than them, and I honestly consider it a pretty amazing show. I more than encourage you to look the other way and watch the show for yourself. The last episode of Feral Pride, episode 21, was a cliffhanger. Episode 21 was posted 7 years ago this July. Since then, the Feral Heart channel has been abandoned, with no explanation over whether the series will come back, besides for this disclaimer in the About section. I checked the Facebook page and found this comment on it. In it, the creator of the series, Pink Darkwolf, explained that she suffered from burnout, causing her to stop making episodes. Though she plans to return to making episodes using scripts that she wrote, she needs new VAs. And also, she no longer has access to the old Feral Pride accounts, including the YouTube channel. The comment was made over 2 years ago now, meaning that it is likely no longer accurate. But I checked the link to the new page just to make sure. Since the comment, the new page has been inactive as well. The inactivity might seem suspicious to some and make it seem like the comment was not really from Pink Darkwolf. But why would someone lie about being Pink Darkwolf and not do anything with it? I tried to dig around to find Pink Darkwolf's account to ask whether Feral Pride is truly over, and to possibly ask to read the scripts myself to see where the series was going to go, but I could not find any account. Even if Feral Pride does not return, I feel as though the series told a pretty interesting story. The level of dedication to the series is downright insane. The series ran for 8 years. Have you ever had a project that has taken 8 years? I haven't. But that's all I have to say on Feral Pride. I highly encourage you to watch the series for yourself, even though it will unfortunately never be completed. Overall, I really enjoyed rewatching Feral Pride. Feel free to comment down below what you thought about Feral Pride and how you think the series would have ended. If you liked this video, feel free to subscribe. I make animal fiction videos pretty often and your support would mean a lot to me. And to those who are already subscribed, thank you so much for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.